violin is, by outside observation, one of the hardest instruments in the world to master. What is the best instruction or advice you received in this mastery, and how did it pave your path to that mastery?
Well, first of all, I love being called a master. Makes me think of master and commander. But I'm not a ship captain. And most instrumentalists do shy away from being called a master just because we're always learning, and there's always someone else or something else that is to be learned, or someone else is better. But I'm going to try it on today. And to answer your question, I think the first thing that was imbued on me was by my second teacher, this old lady, and she truly, if anyone was a master, she was. And I would disagree with her. I was 13 and I said, I want to do it this way. And she said, well, convince me. And I just thought, oh, I can't just say my opinion. I have to convince her of it through my violin. Number one. Number two, when I was in college, I really learned how to practice. And that meant not just practicing a movement of something, but breaking it down into phrases, then breaking it further down into a measure or two, and then further into maybe a few notes, because sometimes the problems were connecting just one or two notes and then putting it back together slowly, and then practicing it not just to correct it, but practicing correctly over and over again so that it feels comfortable, and then so that you can start to make art. Lastly, I think the thing I remember the most is this conductor, this instructor. His name was Emmanuel Vardy, and he really taught me how to use this hand. Most people, when they think of the violin, they think of this hand, the one that holds that beautiful circular, round instrument. But without the bow, the violin is speechless. And so he taught me a lot about fluidity and how to sing.
Kirsten, what are the main differences between opera and musical theater as far as the application of character intuition and singing expectations?
I love this question because I actually started my career as a musical theater performer, and then I moved into the opera genre. Musical theater is dialogue, and then the character will switch to a song. And the dialogue is what moves the action forward. In opera, it's solely sung. Some operas, there's a little bit of dialogue, but it's mostly sung. And therefore, any sort of dialogue, which in opera is called a recitative, but any sort of dialogue is sung. So you have to communicate solely through your singing. Yeah. And that can be really hard because as an opera singer, you may be singing in a 3,000 seats house without any audio enhancement. That's another difference between musical theater and opera. And you have to project all this sound with your whole body, your whole being over an orchestra, and try to be believable. As like you're really speaking some words to the character on stage. At the same time, you're sort of watching the conductor to see when you need to be coming in or when you need to be cutting off or when the other character's coming in. You're watching for cues, and you're thinking about the language you're singing. It could be Italian, it could be French, it could be German, it could be Russian, it could be so many languages, or English. And then that's a whole nother layer that you have to think about as an opera singer, is the language that you're singing and communicating it in a way that is real, that makes you seem like you are an Italian, or you are a German, or you are a Russian. And so there are major differences, but I'd say in musical theater, it's easier to be more believable because you're speaking dialogue. Most of the songs, they're not moving the action forward as much as the dialogue is. And in opera, it's much more difficult to make what's realistic. So anyway, yeah, that's what I would say.
This is for both of you, so you can take turns answering the question or helping each other. What was your first memory of music, and how does that memory still inform your relationship and performance of music today?
That's a really difficult question, Pat, because I have so many memories of music. I mean, we grew up in a musical family, but I will say the one that really sticks out to me, um, and that is that the first time when my parents took me to see an opera at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, I wasn't really, really young. I think I was 12, maybe. And I had never been to the live opera before. And I was just so blown away by the orchestra, by the sound that those people could make with their voices. And they could be like small people or big people or anything, and they all sounded different. And they're singing different languages, and it just seemed so incredible to me. And there was dancing too. I remember the ballet. And I remember thinking, "God, I could never do that because I will never have a voice that big." And I actually thought that for a very long time until someone told me that I had a big voice. So then I thought I'd start studying opera. So
I think my first memory is being around the dinner table, and there were 7 of us, and I remember the light being dimmed, and I remember the anticipation that we were going to sing, because we always sang after prayers. We always prayed and then we always sang. And I remember knowing, okay, it's the singing time. But with that memory comes the memory of sitting next to my brother and me putting potatoes in his milk and him smashing my peas. This happened all the time. And it's very interesting that I put these 2 images together. And I think that sense of play and the fact that it was part of my just living has informed how I bring play and fun, or try to anyway, into how I perform now.
How did you help each other as children become better musicians? And what do you recall about the first time you performed together with instruments?
I'll start. Well, there was some arguing. There was a good amount of arguing. Just imagine 3 sisters were separated by 3 years each, and we started performing as a trio when I was about 8.
Oh, wow.
And I had the least say among all of them because I was the youngest. So I wasn't very happy about that. But I think I did learn from them. I learned how to be disciplined because we were all practicing in the morning together. I learned how to be in front of others, how to be centered, how to focus on the music, how to watch them, because they were older.
My first memory of performing together, when I'm talking about together, I talk about Regina and I, was when she would do these little violin recitals for her in regards to her Suzuki violin lessons.
Yep.
And I would play the piano for her, so I was her accompanist. And I can remember her playing a quarter-size violin. And she was very little, and I remember her playing the variations of Twinkle Little Star and thinking it was so amazing, and not realizing that today, it could be something so much grander. I guess what I learned about communicating with Regina, it didn't happen so much when we were younger, but we're so critical of each other, and learning to forgive each other, being more forgiving of each other in our mistakes, and that this is really about bringing joy to people and to ourselves, not so much as being perfect. And that's a very hard thing for both of us. We're real perfectionists, and just letting things go the way they go with all their mistakes and whatever happens.
The sister act is a classic showbiz tradition. What do you think is unique about your sister act that is beyond every other sister act that has ever existed?
What I think is unique about our partnership is the breadth of the material that we perform. I don't know any sister acts that sing opera and then play film music together as instrumentalists and then do some Chrysler together and then go off and do some folk. And then it's just the two of us. We don't have any supporting players. Someday maybe we will, but right now it's really just us. So we have to do it all.
Finally, what is your best pitch about what a potential audience can expect, both from yourselves as individuals and from the act together in your debut at Le Piano?
Well, Pat, I would say,
Kirsten.
I would say that for an incredible steal of $20, an audience member is going to walk into the door of one of the most beautiful music lounges in the city of Chicago, in Rogers Park, called Le Piano, and be hosted to a table, maybe a round, beautiful lounge chair, and sip on a cocktail or a glass of wine and listen to a full professional concert given by two women who happen to be sisters. As Regina plays her violin, Kirsten plays the piano, and both of them sing and sometimes play too, not at the same time, but you know what I mean? And we will be playing anything from classical to musical theater to folk to tango to opera. And it will be polished, professional, and very unique for Le Piano, because Le Piano is known for its jazz jam sessions. So this is going to be a very unique experience.
There's a real and authentic affection between the two of us. And we love to weave stories about our journeys as musicians and as people, and the things that have happened in our lives and how it's affected what we play and how we play it. And people love to hear that. They love to hear about the stuff behind the scenes. And we're so happy to share that. It makes it so fun and engaging.
This is Patrick McDonald for HollywoodChicago.com. Copyright 2021.